Yo, what is good, Mugiwaras? It is your captain, Mugiwara Matt B, here today with another Captain's Cabin, and I am joined by some special guests here. I got Rogersbase and Drizzt, the Drag Down, or the Theorist, whatever one you want to call them.
I still like Drizzt the Dragdown. I think you should stick with that forevermore.
Yeah, Drizzt the
I do
Drag
like
Down
it.
is amazing.
Yeah.
I earn my stripes.
But how are y'all doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on. I've been planning on doing one of these for a while, so
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it'll be fun talking about Wano.
But it's all good. We're here. The war is getting underway, and I just want to get everyone's thoughts so far about Wano and just what's going to be happening going forward. So, what do y'all think, or what do you want to see the most when it comes to Wano? What is something that you need to see that you have to see before it ends?
One thing that I have to see before it ends. I mean, I just want to get a good fight for the other Straw Hats. I really do. Like, I like that they always have good fights for Zoro and Luffy and Sanji, but man, seeing that one panel, I think it was like 3 or 4 chapters ago, where you see Jinbei and Robin and Brook. I really would love to see the main 6 fighters of the crew fight the Tobiropo. It doesn't have to happen, I guess. Like, they don't necessarily need to fight the Tobiropo, and I don't even need full-on one-on-ones.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel like, Brook got some relatively cool feats during Whole Cake Island, and those were some of my favorite moments looking back on it. And so if we can get something similar to that with like Jinbei and with Robin moving into Wano, I think that'd be great. Like, I think whatever happens with the Yonko, and I'm sure we'll discuss that a little bit later, I think Oda has a plan for it, because obviously we're sort of in the beginning of the end game right now. So I'm not really too concerned on that end, but just in terms of seeing the Straw Hats, because again, this is their first major arc in like years where they're all together.
Right.
Seeing the Straw Hats work together to take down a foe, I think, is like the primary thing I'm looking forward to. And it's, great seeing the crossovers and the supernovas and all that kind of stuff. Like, even the most recent chapter, right? Like, I had to take a step back and be like, oh, wait a minute. This is like supernova versus supernova right now. Like, for me, I read that newest chapter and I thought, oh, this is a decent action chapter. We get Apu and then, Kid and Luffy and Zoro. This is neat. But then when I, again, took a step back and I was like, oh, wait a minute. No, these are the supernova fighting each other. Like, that's what's happening right now.
Right.
I'm so used to and accustomed to all the other story arcs, like being the, villain of the day, sort of the ones that they're attacking, like the Doflamingo family or something, or like members of Big Mom's crew. And it's like, oh, no, we're actually getting like major characters as the fights. And so that's something that makes me really excited.
Right. I would love it if the Straw Hats get fights, and I'm talking about obviously outside of the Monster Trio,
Right, of course.
as you were talking about. But I just have to kind of be real with myself, and I don't know if Oda's gonna give us that. So, like you said, I don't even need full on 1v1 fights. If I just have like, or if Oda makes it so that they have cameos where they show the best thing that they're good at.
Yeah.
Like for instance, whenever back in his lobby, Usopp didn't have a full one-on-one fight, but he just had moments where he shined, brighter than anyone. For like when he was on the Tower of Justice, whenever he saved
Right.
Robin. If we get a moment like that for the rest of the Straw Hats and Wano, I am perfectly fine with that. I don't necessarily need a one-on-one fight, but I would love to see him.
Some type of feat, though, I think would be cool. And the way that the story's being laid out right now, right, where we have all these Straw Hats in different locations, or not just necessarily the Straw Hats, but like their allies too, right? So you've got Law and the Samurai going around Onigashima. You've got Robin and Jinbei doing their own thing, and then Frankie and Brook doing their own thing. Like, that to me was some of the strongest aspects of like Whole Cake Island, right? It was seeing Brook and Pedro's fight inside, with Tamago and getting to go up against Big Mom and stealing the Poneglyph. Like, that stuff was really exciting to me. And if we get more stuff along the lines of that, right, where it's not necessarily like a whole chapter dedicated to it, but like we jump over here to see what Robin and Jinbei are doing, and it's like Yamato's following them, and you got the Tobiropo who have to now fight the two of them to get to Yamato, but Yamato has his own plans. Like, there's a lot of different ways that I think Oda could take the story that makes it interesting while still focusing on the primary objective with Luffy and Kid. So
I definitely agree. Drizzt, get in there.
Oh, Matthew. All right. What do I want to see from Wano? I can't really say there's anything I'm looking forward to in the war, but I'll say that those Reverie chapters in between, those are the ones I'm looking forward to the most as of right now.
Okay, so
Those
the
ones have been
intermission chapters.
Yeah, the intermission chapters have been of consistently high quality, so I'm interested in that. One of the plot lines that still hasn't been resolved from Act 1 would be, and I don't know when this would come about, but Tama finding out that Ace is Luffy's brother. That is something that I think holds some of the higher emotional value in the arc, especially if Oda incorporated the Straw Hats and like her finding out about it. I feel like that would be like a really, really good scene.
Like if one of the Straw Hats were to tell her.
Yeah, or if like she was talking to the Straw Hats. I don't know. I don't know if it would happen in the epilogue, like after everything's done, because she's currently not on Onigashima, and I don't know
Right.
where she is. But if it happened in the epilogue, like after Luffy had won, and then she finds out, and then like the crew, like the Zoro, Usopp, or Nami, say like, "Hey," or she says something about Ace, and like it brings up kind of like emotional feelings for the Straw Hats because they weren't there for Luffy at that point in time, and they tell Tama, that could be like a good emotional, wholesome moment for the crew. As far as fights go, it's been 7 arcs into the New World, and we still haven't gotten fights. If the Straw Hats don't get fights in this arc, then it may not happen until like the last arc of the series at this point.
Right.
Do I have expectations for it? I don't feel like I do at this point. There are far too many characters for there to be the one-on-ones that are going to satisfy people that they actually want. We're probably going to end up getting the clashes, so we'll see like the beginning, maybe like a middle, or like one shots or something of that nature. I don't expect to get one-on-one fights that are super super satisfying. May have to wait longer for that, but if they get plot points that make use of their abilities, that'll be good enough for now, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
One thing, it was interesting you brought it up with Tama too, is it is clear that Tama is going to be more important to the plot of Wano than I think a lot of people really expected early on. Just the fact that they're bringing her up like right now, like even in the most recent chapter, the whole thing with the Onigashima, I thought for sure that was going to be some type of setup with Big Mom, right? Because Big Mom was going crazy in the prison. And when it ended up being like, oh no, it was the callback to Tama and Luffy and Zoro were going crazy and abandoning their disguises. That is something where I feel like by the end of the arc, like I think going back to what you were talking about, I do feel that's going to be like resolution in the epilogue. I don't think it's necessarily going to be in the actual Fire Festival because there's so many other loose ends to deal with. But it does make me question where they're going to take that story later on. And like if Tama's going to stay in Wano or if she's maybe going to come with the crew or something. Like I'm not really sure. Not necessarily as like a Straw Hat, but I mean as like some type of companion, similar to what we saw with even with Carrot going into Whole Cake Island and then moving forward too. So
yeah, that's been a possibility since like the beginning of the. If you remember, people at the beginning thought that Tama was for sure going to end up being a crewmate.
Yeah.
For me, I kind of think of it if it's more like a Laboon situation.
Yeah.
Where Luffy makes a new promise with Tama that the next time he comes around, he'll let her join, just like Ace did, and it'll kind of give her a sense of peace. Because Laboon had his crew die, and then he didn't believe in promises, and then Luffy changed his mind, and now Laboon has a new purpose in life, waiting for the crew to come back. With next time it'll be Brook, but Luffy's the one who made that. I feel like that'll be the same thing with Tama.
That still to me is going to be one of the chapters. Like when we finally see Brook and Laboon together again.
That's going to be such a wholesome chapter. That's going to be beautiful.
It's going to be so good.
It's going to be beautiful.
I'm looking forward to that more than some of like the final fights.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I really am. Like I want to see their reunion so badly.
There's a lot of wholesome moments that I'm looking forward to. Like end game of One Piece, like you said, much more than the fights. Like I really want to see Usopp and Kaya meet again. But there's also there's also the dark cloud over is like is there going to be Straw Hats that die by the end of the series? And I feel like if anyone does out of the Straw Hats, Usopp would be like my number one candidate. And obviously Luffy, but like Usopp most definitely. I feel like if Usopp, a brave warrior of the sea, he would be able to achieve that. It's not solely through death, but if he just has a moment where where he puts it all on the line for the crew, maybe to get to the One Piece, dude, I just feel like Usopp is gonna have one of the better like character arcs to finish off the story.
I'm glad you brought that up too about like Straw Hat deaths and things, because this is something I've been seeing a lot in my comment section over the course of the past couple months. Is people speculating if a Straw Hat's going to die during Wano Country, and I keep going back and being like, "There's absolutely no way."
Yeah,
like,
no
I think
way.
there might be some major deaths in Wano Country. In fact, I expect them. If I don't get them, I think I'll be kind of disappointed, especially because this is being hyped up as like, oh, the next Marineford type situation, and you could see it with all the characters that are coming in. Right, you've got the Supernovas, you've got the Tobiropo, you've got Kaido's men, you've got Big Mom's pirates. I mean, there's all these characters. There is an opportunity for Oda to really make a bunch of impactful deaths. But I think that's one thing that's completely off the table. I don't see any world in which a Straw Hat, like one of the main Straw Hat crew, dies.
No way.
I could see allies dying, right? I could see a world in which Law dies during Wano Country. I don't want it to happen, but I could see that happening. Or maybe one of the other supernovas or members of the Grand Fleet or something. But when it comes down to the main crew, I don't think there's any possibility.
If that was ever going to happen, there would have had to have been some sort of foreshadowing or set up in like the 70 chapters we've already read.
Right.
Yeah, there's no way.
If it came out of the blue, it wouldn't really, I don't know. It would be impactful, but you always want to kind of set up with those.
But would it be impactful because just the initial action of it, or would it be impactful because it's actually good? It actually has substance.
I think it would be impactful because of the subversion of expectations. I think it'd be something where people would be like, "Oh my god, I can't believe he actually did this," as opposed to it making sense within the story.
Right, and that's
I agree with that.
Yeah, and then and in those cases, is that necessarily a good thing?
Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. It depends. It's like a case-by-case scenario. In this situation, if there was no setup for it and then a main character died, then you would probably say like, yeah, that's emotional. But was it written well? You probably have to bend the knee and say no.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like that y'all brought up the epilogue because I think that there's gonna be, or there has to be, some type of time skip, even like within Wano, to show the difference between Wano before and then Wano after it's liberated, or after Luffy and the crew, like they accomplish their goal. So like whenever we first see Wano, kind of like back during the Odin flashback, I believe Wano is gonna revert back to that, where there's no factories anymore. It's kind of like remember what happened with Dressrosa?
Well, that's what I was going to bring up, because a lot of the Dressrosa stuff, like the rebuilding of Dressrosa, happened in cover stories afterwards. Like we got to see more of Dressrosa and how it is now since then within cover stories. So to me, I feel like there doesn't necessarily need to be a time skip, but we'll probably end up getting more of that fleshed out in future cover stories. Now, I don't know who that would follow from the people that we've met in Wano so far, but I think there's a lot of different opportunities for setting things up with like either samurai that stay there after everything is done, or maybe even Tama, right? Like we talked about Tama earlier.
Yeah, maybe through the eyes of like Tama and Momonosuke. I mean, I personally think that Momonosuke is gonna leave with the crew, and kind of be like a cabin boy.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is because yes, like Momonosuke, he is, he's the head of the Kozuki clan, but I feel like Hiyori could take that role for a little bit if you have Momonosuke come out and say he wants to go out and venture the world again, so that he can get stronger, so that he is able to actually lead his people. I feel like that would be pretty poetic, and then it would kind of follow follow Odin's like lineage and stuff, and then also as being the head of the Kozuki clan, it's said that you have to be able to read and write in the poneglyphs. Who's he gonna learn how to do that from?
Right, it has to be Robin.
Exactly. So that's my main thing with Momonosuke being a cabin boy, and I don't think that Robin would be able to teach that stuff to him. If there's like in the downtime after the war is over.
Right. The one thing in terms of Momonosuke that kind of stands out to me right now that I think a lot of people are sleeping on is how important he's going to be to some of the final fights. I think a lot of people don't think he's going to have much involvement, if at all. Like there'll be a lot of things where people are carrying on his will, right? And they're righting the wrongs of Wano country. But I really feel like he's going to be involved in a really pinnacle scene with either the fight against Kaido or the fight against Orochi, or even both.
I agree.
Just the stuff that they're setting up, right? With like the snatch thing, and how you say that every time that you're downtrodden, but you're going to fight forward anyway, and the setup with his father and the stuff that happened, especially with like Kaido's son being introduced now. Like there's going to have to be some type of interaction between Yamato and Momonosuke to show the difference in, being the son of Oden versus being the son of Kaido. And like what their morals are and what they see for the future of the country and what their goals are. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that's being set up with him. And even with Momonosuke saying something as simple as, I'm training to protect my sister, like when we saw him training with Tama, I think that's something that's going to be pretty important moving forward. And I mean, even we saw this in one of the chapters. It wasn't the most recent one, I think it was like 2 or 3 ago, where he's still with Kanjuro and he made the promise to the rest of the crew being like, I'm going to be fine. You guys take care of what you need to take care of.
Right.
I would not be surprised if, Momonosuke does literally stab Kanjuro in the back during that scene where you could see him sort of wriggling out of the ropes. He looks down and sees the knife at the ground. If maybe we actually get a fight against Kanjuro or something, which would be ridiculous thinking, back to the very beginning of this story arc, but it would be kind of poetic and interesting to see moving forward later on into the Fire Festival.
A lot of there's a lot of talk about like what Momonosuke is gonna do. I think it would be pretty poetic if Momonosuke was actually the one to kill Orochi.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I think it should be Hiyori.
You think Hiyori?
And the reason I say that is because I feel like there's already a bit more character motivation and plotline set with Hiyori more so than Momonosuke. One of the plot lines that was being established before we ever got to Wano was the fact that Wano is very sexist. Now, we haven't seen that while we've been in Wano, but it's been told to us before through the teachings of Koshiro to Kuwena, how Kimon was talking to Nami in Punk Hazard. And we saw with Hiyori after she met Zoro, she said kind of forlongingly, like she couldn't do it. She's not her place, that she wanted to be the one to defeat Orochi. And even now we see her forcing herself away from the plot to let the men do the work. Like she took Zoro's sword, she took Ryuma's sword and then dipped. And she's just saying like, I'll be out of here, whatever, I'm gone. I feel like it would be cool if Zoro kind of had like a cool flashback moment or something to remind him of the sentiments that Kuwena had, and he kind of helped Hiyori in making her be the one to defeat Orochi.
I see.
That'd be cool. I'd like that.
And we could, if we do get a flashback, maybe that's the flashback when Zoro went to Ryuma's grave, assuming that he already has.
Yeah,
something along those natures. I feel like, and also if Momonosuke is going to be the one to leave, then obviously the only one to be left in the Kozuki clan would be Hiyori. So it would also be pretty cool to have her be a woman also leading the country in his absence.
Yeah, I mean, I would really love that. I would really, really love to see that. The only thing, and this is getting me thinking about how Wano's being set up right now. It does seem like there's a lot of red herrings that are being thrown out during this Fire Festival, right? We're talking about these important characters, people like Hiyori and people like Momonosuke, but I feel like with the introduction of the Tobiropo and the introduction of the numbers, which we still don't know anything about. We saw a glimpse of one of them last chapter and then didn't touch on it at all. I'm curious as to what role all of these groups of the Beast Pirates are actually going to play moving forward in the story. And if it does ultimately just come down to all the characters that we've been bringing up, right? Like the storylines, the through lines with Momonosuke and with Hiyori and with the samurai and who the samurai are going to fight and who the supernovas are going to fight and who's going to team up against Kaido. It's like the story can go in so many different directions. And the scary and exciting thing about that is I feel like they could do really awesome, impactful moments story-wise that flesh out the character arcs of the standalone characters from Wano, like we were just talking about, like Momo and Hiyori and stuff. Or they could give those moments to the Straw Hats that we've been following or some of the other supernovas and sort of flesh out their character. But I think because we have so many characters, I feel like it's bound to happen where somebody or a multitude of characters are not really going to get the chance to shine. And that looking back on Wano country, it's going to be like, really, what was the point of this character? moving into this Fire Festival fight, you know? Like, I have faith that everybody's going to get a moment and everybody's going to get a through line with their character arc. But at the same time, I do feel like it's worrisome with the introduction of all these other characters and all these other story arcs that maybe one or two of them aren't going to get really anything by the end of the Fire Festival. I feel like some of them are literally being thrown in there to make us think, oh, this character is going to have a big moment, when in reality, nothing actually happened.
Yeah, that they're probably not. Yeah, you know, I've been thinking that as well. Like, I mean, a lot of people think that Sasaki or Who's Who is actually gonna fight one of the fight one of the calamities, and
Right.
I don't think that there's any chance of that happening.
Any chance?
Okay. There is maybe a tiny chance, but the thing is that the chaos right now that's happening, I think that that's going to take precedence over finding Yamato.
All right, Matt, what about this? So it's been mentioned twice now in like 2 chapters.
The Tobiropo calamity thing. Yeah.
So do you think Oda's going to mention that twice, like in a row, and then just not do anything with it?
Okay, when I say I don't think it'll happen, I don't think one of the Flying Six will defeat one of the Tobiropo.
But there could be a fight.
Yeah, there could be a fight, but do I think that we'll see it? Probably not.
Yeah.
I hate to be that guy, but I mean, my dream, if okay, so the fact that it's been mentioned, you know, twice, and it seems like the beef is really with Queen and King more so than Jack. What I would personally like, right, is if Queen, you know, he came down there to where because Queen is in the vicinity.
Luffy and Zoro.
Yeah, he's in the vicinity of where
I'm
like
in complete
Apu
agreement.
where all of them are at. If Queen comes down there, right, and then let's say that, you know, Luffy, let's say that Luffy and Kid, what I can see is that both of them wanting to get the grudge out against Queen because of the stuff in Udon, and so there's kind of like a tag team, right? And then let's say that Queen runs away. He decides to retreat. He suffers some type of injury. He retreats. And then let's say that Sasaki or Who's Who, they actually do find Yamato. And then they choose Queen because he's injured to fight. Then, you know, I would like that much more. But if nothing happens to, and you know what, Drizzt, now that you say that, the fact that it's been mentioned like twice, I really hope that you know, that it does happen. So that it would just add another dynamic.
That was one of the most interesting things of that chapter, right? Is them setting up this thing where, oh, there's going to be infighting in addition to all the stuff that's happening with the supernovas. Like, that is actually something I do want to see. And I like that idea because I'm in complete agreement with you that I think we're going to get a Queen fight sooner rather than later.
Right.
Because he's in the vicinity, I think you're going to see all these like fodder characters in the next couple chapters, right? Going through and trying to take down the supernovas. I think we're going to get more of that Apu fight. I don't think it's over right now. I think we're probably going to get more of that. And then I think somehow that's going to lead into either one of the other Tobiropo showing up and then eventually leading up to a Queen fight that, like you said, is like a tag team, right? Because I think if we get Luffy and Zoro and Kid versus Queen, I think Queen's going down like pretty easily too. I feel like that's a pretty, I think it'll be a good fight. But I think it'll be a pretty easy win for the three of them. And
most definitely.
Then what you said, bringing that up where it's like, okay, well then he goes back sort of tail between his legs. And then by that point, one of the Tobiropo members has found Yamato and they see that Queen's already been devastated by this attack. And they're like, yeah, we're going to fight you and take your spot. And then someone ends up stepping in for a brief moment to be that calamity. And then we get the fight with that character moving forward, or maybe the character that takes the spot is more important to the story than we initially think. I could see that being the trajectory of the Tobiropo versus the Calamity. What I don't want to see is I do not want to see the Tobiropo finding Yamato and then off-screening the Tobiropo
versus
fighting like
Calamity.
King or something,
Yeah.
right? And
Oh.
then we get to the moment where like we're right before Kaido, and then like Sasaki or Who's Who shows up, and they're like, "Hey, I'm the new Calamity in Kaido's crew,"
Yeah.
and then it's just
Oh,
the King
man.
thing is thrown to the wayside, and all that stuff about Big Mom bringing up that he's from the race of people that's like rare that she's been trying to get, and him having the sword and the setup with him and Zoro. It's like I would not like to see it all, and I would genuinely be upset if that happened. And I don't even necessarily think that would be like an interesting subversion of character. I think that would just be bad writing on
That would
Oda's
just be
part.
awful.
Yeah.
That would be
Oh.
that would be pretty bad.
And I feel like there's a bad likelihood of that happening. I feel like there's a really high chance that could potentially happen. And I feel like that setup with Queen, since Queen's already there, is a much more logical setup and one that would be much more interesting to me to see.
And just to touch on what you said about the infighting, I think that kind of shows the parallel between Kaido's crew and the Rocks Pirates. Just based off of what what Whitebeard said about the Rocks Pirates and the Odin flashback. I would like that a lot if we see the repercussions of infighting between or having so many strong-willed people and one crew.
Yeah. Well, I think the other big thing too, in terms of strong wills and people in the Tobiropo, that I haven't seen a lot of people speculating on, but this was like ripe for speculation in the very, very early days of Wano, is Drake, right? Because Drake is based on the Commodore that in real life opened the borders of Japan to the rest of the world. It seems very likely that Drake is going to play a role as an ally of the Straw Hats and an ally of the good guys moving forward into the arc, right? We know already that he's working for the Navy. He's a double agent, all this other stuff.
Yep.
He's a member of SWORD with Kobe and everything. So I see a moment in which he shows up in a moment where I feel like one of our crew members or one of the allies is in a really tough situation. Probably Law, I think, more than anybody else, because we still don't really know the full repercussions of that conversation between Drake and Law and what they actually discussed.
Right.
So I could see maybe Law being blindsided by something as they're going around the back of Onigashima with the rest of the samurai, and then Drake sort of stepping in and helping them. But as for like what his reasoning is for that or what his goal is, I'm not really sure. But I do feel like Drake, we could already take out of the situation. Like, I don't think Drake is going to fight to be one of the calamities. I don't think he actually has any stake in that.
What I personally
go ahead.
What I personally think about Drake, I think with all this, with all this chaos going on right now, Drake is going to disappear. This is the perfect time for Drake to go and do what he wants to do, and for no one to question where he's at, what is he doing. I think that he's going to set things up so that the Marines can infiltrate into Wano right now.
Yes, I could see that happening.
Because I think every faction is there's gonna be Marines and pirates and Wano. So Yonko crew, Supernova, and then Marines. Because going forward, the Throne Wars, I believe it's gonna come down to the Supernova, the Marines fighting amongst each other. It's just an all big free for all. And right now, what they're gonna all do is eliminate the Yonko, which are the main factors right now in the Throne Wars.
And this is the Four Yonko saga. I mean, that's literally what
Right.
they're calling this group of stories.
Right.
The only thing that I think I disagree with is I think you're right in some sense of Drake being the in for the Marines to come in. But I don't necessarily think they show up in Act 3. I think Act 3 primarily focuses on the characters that are already here. It ends in a massive defeat. And then Act 4 introduces the Marines, introduces like the Grand Fleet if they end up showing up, whatever. And that gives all the characters that were downtrodden after the events of Act 3 that second win to finally go in and take down the Yonko.
So, Roger, how many chapters do you think Wano's going to be if you think there's going to be 2 parts to the...
Oh, I mean, it is. I mean, it's unequivocally going to be 2 parts. I'd be shocked if this ends in Act 3. I mean, if you look at the traditional setup of a Kabuki play, right, it's 5 acts. And
for sure.
Yeah, Act 3 normally is a huge chunk, and Act 4 is a big chunk. Act 3 usually ends with some sort of tragedy. Act 4 brings the hero's resolution, and then obviously the denouements in Act 5, which is usually pretty small. So, I mean, I could see this going on for at least another 50 or so chapters, minimum. which I know is maybe not what a lot of people want to hear because we've already been in Wano for so long. But to me, I feel like he's been setting up Wano for so long, right? I mean, Oda's had these story ideas in place pre-time skip. I mean, he knew what he wanted to do with Wano. So for me, I don't mind him taking his time and fleshing out all these characters because I do feel like with Wano, more than literally any other arc, I do genuinely trust that Oda knows what he's doing. And to me, it doesn't necessarily feel like he's like trying to bide time, right? I feel like a big thing with Dressrosa and Whole Cake Island, and I know people disagree with me, but I stand by this, is I think he was really biding time to get to the 100 mark chapters, right? He was biding time to get to 800 and get to 900 and have like something really important happen during those chapters, right? Where we had the bad end musical with Whole Cake Island and the stuff that happened in Dressrosa, and even with 700 in the beginning of Dressrosa with like the Mera no Mi. So I feel like he's not really worried about that right now because based on where we are, I feel like chapter 1000 is going to hit smack dab in the middle of Act 3, right? Like, I mean, we got, 20 more chapters of Act 3, presumably? I think easily we can get another 20 chapters of Act 3, and I think we won't even be done with it by that point. So I feel like he's not really worried about hitting a milestone. I think it's instead he really does want to tell the story he's been setting up for so long.
I agree with you, man. I think that there's at least gonna be or my sweet spot for Wano is gonna be like 130 chapters.
Yes.
Like not 130 more, but 130 chapters.
How many are we at right now?
71.
71.
Actually, I think 72. 908
So yeah,
is
I
where
mean,
it began.
realistically, I could see another 30 within Act 3 alone, another like 20 in Act 4, maybe 20 to 25, and then, a very short Act 5 that sort of wraps up the storyline. Maybe Act 5 is the little time skip that you were talking about, right?
Yeah, I think Act 5 is going to be like the epilogue, so to say.
Yeah.
Kind of like the post Ennis Lobby. You know how it was we had the building of the Sunny, Garp and Luffy meeting, and then him meeting Kobe, and then inevitably ending with the Ace and Blackbeard fight.
Yeah.
And then and then the bounty posters and stuff. So I can see something like that all happening, and then I think how the epilogue ends is we find out what happened with Sabo, or we find out what happened with like Hancock, the Shichibukai.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll probably see both of those, right? I would imagine that at some point, because of where they left off, we're going to have to see what happened with the Shichibukai. And I'm going to make this is like not a crazy prediction or anything, but I think people are just forgetting about this. We still, after all this time, have not seen Weevil's power. We've heard that he's this powerhouse. We've heard he's this big threat. I feel like the Marines going to capture him right now, quote unquote, is going to show us the potential of Weevil's power. I think whenever we do jump back to the Shichibukai, that is going to be the official reveal of whatever Weevil's power set is.
Yeah, like with the intermission chapters, the next next set of intermission chapters, I think that we should definitely get the Shichibukai bounties.
Yes.
So
yes.
My dream scenario is like we get lore on every single one of the Shichibukai within the next like couple of intermission chapters. So Mihawk, Hancock, Weevil. I don't know if we really need it for Buggy because I don't like I mean we already know why Buggy's bounty increased, as much as it, or like why Buggy became a warlord, because he was on the Rocks Pirates, or not Rocks Pirates but the Roger Pirates, and then because of him leaving Marineford with Shanks.
Of course.
So that's kind of that's whatever. And then Kuma's a mindless robot. Like we don't really need anything about Kuma, unless.
So I'm glad you bring that up.
Anymore, is he?
No, he is.
He's not even a warlord. Oh, is he?
Yeah, he's.
I thought it said former warlord.
Remember whenever Brand New was talking about the warlords?
Yeah.
I believe it was chapter 700. Kuma is actually still listed as a warlord then.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. He is.
Because it was Buggy, Law. They were talking about it was Buggy, Law, Hancock, Mihawk, Dofi. Who else is there? I feel like I'm
Well,
forgetting.
Mihawk, Kuma, Hancock, Buggy, and Weevil.
Yeah, that's when we found. When did we find out about Weevil? Was it after Dressrosa?
Yeah, it was
I
after Rosa.
Well, yeah. So we knew there was another Shichibukai that was added before Dressrosa, right? We knew that was the
Yes.
case when
Yes.
Law left.
Right.
But yeah, I guess we haven't actually seen anything really from him outside of. I think I guess it was after Dressrosa, beginning of Zoe was Weevil's introduction.
Yes, you're
Yeah.
right. You're right. You're
Yeah.
right. But yeah, I remember in chapter 700, whenever Brand New was talking about the Warlords, and I believe he was speaking about like the Dofi situation. Yeah, speaking about the Dofi situation. Kuma was included in those Warlords, and then when we actually saw Kuma in the Reverie, I believe that's when it finally said former Warlord.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing that stands out to me is, did you guys read those Library of Ohara Reverie chapters?
Nah, I
I have
never.
not actually.
I haven't read any of them. I
So
actually
obviously these
started a
are.
shitstorm on Twitter about
Oh,
those.
did you? Wait,
Yeah,
what was the?
dude, I just
Wait, I'm curious. Hold on, wait. So what about him?
dude, so I just I knew what they were kind of gonna be about, or not
Sure.
be about, but I knew that he was gonna be capitalizing on the fans' greed and the fans' want to see the Reverie expanded upon.
Of course.
So whenever the chapter came out, I saw one panel, and that was whenever Dragon, I believe, like Dragon was walking up and he knocked
Oh
everyone
yeah,
out.
and he knocks everybody out with the
Yeah,
wind.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
so what I tweeted, damn, it's a shame that that a fan made chapter is making better material than the actual chapters of One Piece.
Whew, boy.
And then, dude, it was a
All facts.
So
shitstorm.
people were getting really mad at me, which was strange because so many people were asking me, "You got to do a live reaction to these fan made chapters," and I've done them in the past, right? I did like the
Yeah,
Akainu
Kanye one.
yeah, and the Whitebeard one. So I was like, "Yeah, I'm
Didn't
down.
you
I'll
do the
this.
Whitebeard and Kaido one too?
Yeah, I did the Whitebeard and Kaido one too.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, yeah, I'm down to read this. This is fun. And as I was reading it, there were so many people who were like, oh, the art's so terrible and this is all stupid headcanon. And I'm like, first off, you realize this is like some fan-made thing. None of this is necessarily going to happen. It's just their ideas. And it's basically like if someone, instead of doing a theory video, like just made their theory video into a manga panel.
Yeah,
That's
right.
what it felt like, which is like fine for me. Then I knew that going into it. I'm like, okay, that's what this is going to be.
Man,
But
Roger,
one
the
thing-
only reason people were saying that is because it was about the Reverie. No one said anything like that with the Akainu chapter or the Whitebeard
No,
Kainu
because it was just
chapter.
like it was a fight, but because it was lore related stuff, people were like, "Oh, this is trash, bro. This is trash." But I thought it was fun for what it was, just to like put that out there. But one thing that was sort of talked about and theorized on in those chapters, and something that I actually agree with, is I feel like, especially now because we've seen that Pound is alive, I think Kuma is still alive somehow. And one idea that was thrown out there is that the revolutionaries sort of have like a backup chip, right? That has his memories stored on it, and that Vegapunk's working the revolutionaries and whatever. I can definitely see that one particular thing coming into play and actually being something that happens within the story. I feel like all is not lost for Kuma.
Well, you know,
floppy
this is my bag right here, Roger. I love the revolutionaries. They're my favorite.
I love them too. I know we've had
faction.
many a discussion about it.
Many of discussions. So yes, I definitely agree. And my main thing with that is, you know, it seems, by all intents and purposes, that Kuma was the former right-hand man of Dragon. So my thinking is, why would Dragon? There's no way that Dragon would, you know, willingly give up Kuma without having something come back in return. He's just too strong to just give him up as a warlord, and, you know, like, here you go. You can have my guy, and then increase your military strength. So and then, you know, about Vegapunk. We know that Vegapunk and Judge got captured at the same time for whatever experimentation they were doing.
The bloodline thing.
Yeah, the bloodline thing. And for some reason, Judge was exonerated, but Vegapunk wasn't. Vegapunk is still working with the government. I have a hard time believing that Vegapunk is working with the world government of his own accord.
Right.
So, you know, I think that Dragon knows something about Vegapunk, and that there's some type of allegiance right there between Dragon, Vegapunk, and Kuma, which is why I think that in regards to Sabo, that Kuma actually teleported Sabo out of the reverie.
Oh, I could see that happening. Yeah. And that's how, where people are like, oh, Sabo was lost and they can't find his body or something, but he actually
Right.
slapped him into someone. See, now that, have you played the Pirate Warriors 4 game yet?
I
I've
haven't,
played,
but I've seen some
Okay.
things about
I've
it.
played
So
bits and pieces of it.
Yeah, so the ending of the game, spoiler alert, is, well, I mean, it's not really a spoiler, right? Because none of it's canon.
Oh, okay.
Is,
Oh, what a great ending.
yeah, it's they have their own idea for what's going to happen in Wano Country, right? Where all these Marines come in and all the, like, literally every character you could think of, like, shows up for this fight against Kaido. And I feel like that would almost be a really funny resolution to the Sabo thing, is if in Act 4, that's sort of one of the surprise things you see coming out of nowhere, right? Is that, just like you said, Kuma maybe gets his memories back or something, slaps Sabo away, and then Sabo goes flying to Wano Country.
Goes flying to Wano.
Lands there, and Sabo's like, what the heck? What am I doing here? He sees that Luffy's in trouble. The Grand Fleet shows up, the Marines show up, and then they all go in against the Yonko. I mean, that is realistically something that I could see happening within the story. I don't necessarily think there's a high chance of it. I think Sabo and the setup with him is probably leading into almost like an Impel Down 2.0 type situation where there's like a Sabo rescue arc or something going on with the revolutionaries and finding out the truth about him. But I don't necessarily think that we're going to see what happened to Sabo in the next intermission chapter. I think I agree with you. I think the next intermission chapter is mostly going to be focused on the Shichibukai and set up for what's going on with the Marines and then maybe a lead into the Marines coming to Wano. And then I actually think the end intermission between whatever's after Act 5 and whatever's going to happen with the next story arc, I think that's when we find out what's going on with Sabo, because I think that would be like the little plot seeds that are being set up for whatever the final few arcs are.
I think that in some of these intermission chapters, we have to see a confrontation between Shanks and Blackbeard. Because
Intermission.
Yeah, like no, not a fight, Drizzt, just the confrontation.
Right.
Like
Alright.
maybe like so. Okay, we have Shanks going to the Reverie to warn them about a pirate. I'm thinking that that's about Blackbeard.
Right.
I would assume that. Okay. So then, we have, what was it, after the first intermission, or during the first intermission, or was it after Act 2? Yeah, it was the first intermission. We have Blackbeard, and he says, or no. I'm sorry. It was the second.
Where you got like Moria and Chiyu and.
But when he said, "Let's go, boys, let's go get it," they're not going to do anything with it. I believe that was the intermission chapter after Act 2. So we have Blackbeard on the move, per se. So I believe that Shanks is gonna kind of intercept Blackbeard to some degree, and we may get some type of confrontation between them.
Well, see, I think this brings it back to, I think, what the whole topic of discussion was today. We said I got off topic talking about like what's going to happen after Wano, but we are talking about like what's going to happen during Wano.
Yeah.
I truly stand by this. You know how you guys were saying, oh yeah, we definitely need to see this big thing with Zoro, and King was talking about that Kaido's not going to fall during this arc. And everybody has their one big thing that they believe. Mm-hmm. The one big thing I truly believe, is there is no way we get out of Wano Country without Blackbeard being involved at all. There's absolutely positively no way. There are too many things being set up where I feel like he has to come through during either Act 3 or Act 4, or has some type of involvement with the downfall of Kaido.
You know what I think? What I personally think, as far as Blackbeard goes, I think that Blackbeard will send someone to Wano, so whether it be Lafayette, Katarina Devon, or Shiryu. Someone that can go into Wano without being detected. And he'll have intentions to go to Wano, but Shank inevitably intercepts him.
But you still believe, even because if that happens, that has to happen probably in the next intermission chapter. It has to. I mean, there's literally no other place for it to happen outside of whatever happens after Act 3, right? Because if Blackbeard or one of his subordinates shows up during Act 4, we need that explanation of how they got there and why they're there and all that kind of stuff. So that would have to happen during the very next intermission, then it wouldn't just focus on the Shichibukai. And if that's the case, and Blackbeard doesn't necessarily show up himself, I mean, I think we're all in agreement. You guys think there is going to be someone of Blackbeard's crew who shows up.
Oh, most
right?
definitely, most definitely. There's going to be a Blackbeard pirate.
There's involvement of Blackbeard pirates, right?
There's definitely going to be a Blackbeard pirate presence in Wano. But the thing is that what I'm focused on is the fact that he says they're not going to do anything with it. Let's get on the move, boys. So I'm thinking one of two things. I'm thinking it's either going to be related to something of the Poneglyph, something of the Void Century, because I think that the Gorosei killed Cobra during the Reverie.
Mm.
And then if Kuma...
And set it up to make it seem like Sabo did it.
Yes. And they're framing Sabo to make it seem like he did it.
Right.
And then what if we have something to where Blackbeard tries to go get Kuma's devil fruit?
Oh yeah, I mean that'd be interesting
because he's
something like that.
Because he's devil fruit hunting. Like I know that Blackbeard is gonna be doing something, but I feel like it's too much and it's too redundant to have Blackbeard come into Wano one fell swoop and then destroy Kaido and then take his fruit, because that's what a lot of people are saying. A lot of people think that that's gonna happen. I just feel like that's a little too it's
nose?
Yeah, it's too specific. And then if it was that obvious, I don't think it would be that obvious right now.
Well, see, that's why I don't think it's that obvious. I don't know if you guys watched the video I did about Moria and his potential involvement in Wano. It's like a theory video. But okay, so long story short, I'll wrap this up pretty quick. My idea is that because I think what Blackbeard was talking about, the thing he was referring to where he said, let's go get it, I think he's talking about Kaido's devil fruit.
Okay.
I think he realizes that this fight's happening, that some of these Yonko aren't going to survive, and this is going to be his opportunity, much like in Marineford, to go steal Whitebeard's devil fruit.
Right.
He's got Shiyu's devil fruit power, right, with that used to be Absalom's. I think that was really a call to get Moria to him, because I think Moria, with his devil fruit power, with shadows and zombies and all this kind of stuff, and the setup that we saw pre-time skip with ores and being able to utilize the bodies of really strong people and put shadows within them, to me, that is just set up right there for Kaido. If there's a way in which, because I feel like strongly Kaido's got to go down during this arc. He has to.
He has to. There's no way.
He has to go down. I don't believe. However, the way to have him go down but still be an actual physical present threat within the story is to have Kaido die and have Moria turn him into a zombie. That, I think, is a legitimate possibility, because why else, why of all the characters, right? Obviously we have the stuff with Shichibukai, but why of all characters are we getting Moria thrown back during one of these Wano intermissions? What that says to me is that he wanted to remind us of this character because it's going to be important in the very near future. And what choice does Moria have at this point, right? He's surrounded by Blackbeard pirates, and Blackbeard's like, yeah, join my crew. Let's go get it, all this stuff. What choice does Moria have?
Roger,
he has to go along with Blackbeard. He's going to be destroyed by him otherwise.
I want to cut in here real quick.
Go ahead, Drizzt. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Emergency came up. One of our sites went down for my work. I have to go make a few calls, so I will be gone for 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes.
All right, no worries, man. No worries.
Sure thing, man.
You're good. Me and Roger are just here, just vibing.
Yeah, you guys need to go momentum going. I'll let you know when I'm back.
All right. Okay, Roger. So let me ask you this: do you think that it's out of the question to have Moria maybe throw in a couple of shadows for Blackbeard, so that Blackbeard so that he doesn't run into kind of the same thing that he ran into with Whitebeard, where he was overwhelmed a little bit? I mean, obviously he's strong, he's a Yonko, but maybe just as an insurance policy, to make sure that nothing goes wrong, that he has Moria there just so Moria can give him some shadows so that he uses it for his benefit.
Yeah, boost him up basically.
Right.
Sure. I mean, that's another possibility, but I also feel like what I just mentioned with the zombie Kaido thing and then also the Blackbeard power up, I mean, it goes hand in hand, right? I mean, Moria's devil fruit power is something that I think a lot of people forget about it because it's a pretty goofy arc. And while there's really good moments in Thriller Bark, I feel like unanimously among the entire fandom, that's seen as probably, in terms of the big arcs, one of the least favorites. I think everybody always talks about Alabasta and Water 7 and Marineford, but no one really like focuses on Thriller Bark, and there's so much stuff there, and even like setup, like the stuff with Moria's crew being wiped up by Kaido.
By
Moria
Kaido,
obviously
yeah.
wants revenge against Kaido. Ryuma's like body and all that stuff that was being set up there. The stuff with Silver being one of the zombies, and now we just so happen to find out that Silver was one of John. I mean, not Silver, but John. Well, actually, Silver Axe too. We assume that maybe the dude with the giant axe could have been Silver Axe too. But you know, the other bodies of the zombies that were there in Thriller Bark potentially having connections to the Rocks Pirates. Kaido having connections to the Rocks Pirates. I mean, there's so many connections there between the stuff that we were introduced to in Thriller Bark and Wano Country. And again, like what Moria wants more than anything else, he wants revenge against Kaido for slaughtering his crew and turning him into what he turned into today.
So
right?
then
And
you're saying Blackbeard's gonna use that revenge or that vengeance in Moria's heart for his
Exactly, to convince him and sway him to come to the crew. Because obviously he could strong arm him into joining the crew, of course, right? He could easily be like, no, you're coming with me. I'm using you as a power up. It's done. But I think there's much more to it than that, right? At the end of the day, Moria is still a former warlord, and he has an incredibly strong, interesting devil fruit. And I think that is a way that I could see him sort of swaying him into the crew, be like, look, I know what you want, and you know what I want. I want Kaido's devil fruit. You want more than anything else for Kaido to be dead.
Yep.
We have, you know, our desires are aligning right now. Let's do this. This is our opportunity, right? Straw Hat's over there, Big Mom's there, because obviously they know that Big Mom's present. I mean, they know this. Obviously, all the Yonko have intel on everything, so they know Big Mom's going to be there too. They're like, this is our in, right? Big Mom is there, Kaido's there. Let's go snag up their devil fruits. Let's do this. Like, this is your opportunity, Moria. You've wanted this more than anything else. And if Kaido goes down during this arc, are we never going to get resolution for that plot line with Moria? I like, this is the opportunity to do it. If people believe that Kaido is going down during Wano Country, this is it, man.
I mean, it's a very opportune time to, you know, strategically insert Moria back into the story.
Right. Exactly. So that, I guess, going back to what we were talking about earlier too, where you're like, what's one thing you really believe is going to happen? You know, going back to the stuff with Blackbeard, I also thoroughly believe Moria is hand in hand with that. I really think Moria and Blackbeard will have involvement at some point during this Fire Festival. As sort of this weird thing that nobody sees coming, most likely during Act 4, after the resolution of maybe like the downfall of Orochi happens in Act 3. But then Kaido has some secret weapon or something and takes down pretty much what assumes to be the majority of like the Alliance. And then boom, go in Act 4, all hope seems lost. But then other characters start getting themselves involved in the story, and that's how we end up taking down Kaido. So
okay,
yeah,
I like that. I like that. I just don't know when this Shanks Blackbeard meeting is gonna be, and then my
that's
only thing,
I'm like, it has to be if that's gonna happen before Blackbeard and Moria's involvement in Wano Country, that has to happen in the next intermission. It has to. Full stop. And if it doesn't happen there, it's not going to happen until the end of the arc. And that could potentially be sort of like the Ace versus Blackbeard moment, right? You know how we got that Ace versus Blackbeard moment that then set up everything else that was going to happen in the story moving forward pre-time skip after Water 7 Annie's lobby. We could get that same setup with what you're talking about with Shanks and Blackbeard in the fallout of what happens of the Fire Festival. Because my assumption is Blackbeard's not going to stick around. If they turn Kaido into a zombie or steal his devil fruit or whatever, that's going to happen and they leave. And then the rest of the Alliance, you know, obviously they've been beaten down by all the stuff that happens during the Fire Festival. There's going to be a lot of losses. I think that's their opportunity to go, okay, we can't worry about him right now. We'll deal with him later. We got to help out the people of Wano Country. Kaido's no longer a threat. Let's fix things for Tama and the samurai.
What I kind of look at as being the parallel to the Ace and the Blackbeard fight is the Reverie, like the event of the Reverie itself. And so let me just explain it. So you know how we saw a portion of the Blackbeard Ace fight, and we didn't see the outcome for, you know, for a pretty good portion of chapters.
It was wild, yeah.
So if you compare it to, and then before that, we have Enna's Lobby. And everybody says that Marineford is, or that Wano is the parallel to Marineford. I think that Wano is the parallel to Enna's Lobby, because Enna's Lobby was the event that made Luffy's name be renowned throughout the world, and you know that's gonna be Wano. So you have Enna's Lobby, then the then the Ace and Blackbeard fight. We saw
Right.
a portion of the Ace and the Blackbeard fight. We didn't get the resolution to that for for a couple of, or for a good portion of chapters, and then that outcome set up the end of pre-time skip One Piece. As
Right.
to
Right.
Wano is gonna be before, or Wano happens around the same time as the Reverie.
Right.
We saw a little bit of the Reverie. We don't know what happened, and then we're getting bits and pieces, slowly but surely, about what actually happened at the Reverie, and then
Right.
that's gonna set up, the end game for post time skip One Piece.
And I agree with that completely. Whenever I make the parallels to Marineford, I just mean the scale of the fight. I don't
Okay.
necessarily mean the story arc itself, right?
Right.
I think I'm in agreement with you in terms of like where the placing of Wano is throughout the post-time skip versus pre-time skip. I do feel like this is the climax of Wano Country and the fallout of Wano Country is going to set up everything else leading into the end of the story. I mean,
Right.
everything. I feel like even if you look at the way that he paced out pre-time skip, where we had, Water 7 Eni's Lobby going into Thriller Bark, and then that led us into the run of chapters from Saba Odi all the way through Marineford and post-war. I think we're going to see something pretty similar here, where the arc after Wano is not going to be as big of an arc or like as important of an arc outside of maybe like lore related things. Then I think it's not going to be like a big fight arc. I think it's going to be more of like a lore based arc. And our assumption is that's probably going to be Elbaf, right? So we assume,
I think
okay,
the main
we go
goal and that is going to be like the trying to find the last road poneglyph.
Right. Well, I think not just the road poneglyph, but I think set up with the tree too, right? With the Atom tree. Because I mean, that's what's there, right? We've seen that giant tree in silhouette in Elbaf teased multiple times. And we've heard about this legendary place, and we know that Usopp wants to see it. So I feel like that is kind of like the last big thing we need to see in terms of like a meaty story arc, the resolution with the Giants, what the Giants are going to think of the fallout of Big Mom being involved with the Fire Festival, all that stuff. So I could see it going from Wano to Elbaf to then a bunch of miniature arcs leading up into the final Throne War, right? And then the denouement of the story. I think that's where we're going right now. That's the trajectory I feel like we're moving on. Now, as for like how long I think Elbaf's going to be, I don't know. It could be like a Zoe-themed arc. It could be like a pretty short arc, maybe like 40-something chapters, or it could be another really big arc leading into a bunch of smaller arcs before the final Throne War arc, which obviously is going to be a meaty one because it's like the final arc of One Piece. But I don't know. We're going to see. Like, I don't think Raftel is going to be that long of a story arc when we get there. I think it's going to be maybe a fight, like a big fight, a character showing up, finding out a lot about the world, and then that kicks into the final gear of whatever that last arc is going to be, the Throne War or whatever.
People think that like Raftel is going to be its own arc. I think that Raftel is going to be within
another story arc.
Yeah,
right,
another story arc.
Right.
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
I just don't know how it's I don't know how it's going to be, but I definitely agree. Like, it's everything is going to get picked up. Like, we're going to get that intensity that we were feeling all the way from Saba Odi to Marineford. Where
I mean, to be honest, I don't think the intensity is going to go down at any point moving forward. I think we're at this intensity for the rest of the story now.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. Like, obviously we'll have like, it'll be teeter-tot, or it'll be up and down, but for the majority of it, we're gonna stay like right here.
Yeah.
At this intensity level, and then probably increase a little bit more.
Yeah.
So I know you said that you think people are gonna die.
Yes.
So aside from Kaido, do you see anyone else dying? And
yes.
if so, who do you have? Like, who are your main like your death flags? Who do they go to?
First off, definitely one of the samurai. I mean, that's like no brainer. I think that's something that can have an impact on the reader that doesn't necessarily affect the overall final story of One Piece, right? Is if he kills one of the samurai, they go out swinging against somebody, they make a sacrifice similar to Pedro. I think that's like a big one, right? So I think or all the samurai, honestly. It could be all the samurai too, right? And they literally become the ghosts of Wano by the end of it. And because the majority of the country, a lot of them still think they're dead, right? Like, obviously they put out the calling card and people are getting hyped and they're getting ready for the fight, the Fire Festival. But I think there's still a good majority of Wano that believes they're dead, right? And so a lot of them could be dead at the end of this. I could see a lot of them going down either in the fight against Orochi or the fight against Kaido, or sacrificing themselves for a big attack, or going to get against the Tobiropo or something. But I mean, they've been alive for a long time, and I feel like that is something that's being sort of teased a lot. So I think one of the samurai is going to go down for sure. If not multiple samurai. I think Kaido, like I said, I don't know if his presence leaves the story after Wano Country, but I do feel like he dies at the end of Wano. I think he goes down. And I also feel like there is a strong possibility Big Mom could too. I used to be full on the train of like, no, Big Mom needs to be present during Elbaf, but now I don't necessarily believe that anymore. I think letting Elbaf know Big Mom is no longer a threat that exists in the world that's looming out there is something that could be just as important to that story arc. Now, I don't necessarily think there's as high of a chance of Big Mom going down in Wano as there is of Kaido. But I also think there's a pretty strong possibility for her and for some of the Big Mom pirates as well. So for like Paris Sparrow and some of the other ones that are there, that some of them might go down during Wano as well.
I hear a lot of people speculating on Law dying in Wano.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are I don't want Law to die because he's like one of my favorite characters. I love Law.
Okay.
But I think if Kaido's immortality has something to do with Law's Devil Fruit, then I think it's almost assured that he goes down. The only thing is, Oda likes a happy ending, and Oda likes to sell manga volumes. And I feel like Law really is one of those characters that I feel like he has to be present in that final Throne War. He's somebody that he's so beloved and he's so popular that I cannot imagine him taking him down here. But I mean, man, could you imagine if Law actually dies in Wano Country? This is going to go down as like one of the most hyped stories.
Dude, it'll be one of like honestly,
it's going to be to me more impactful than Ace dying. To be honest, if he dies,
it depends on how it is, If it turns out right, because what I personally think there's two character arcs that I think for Law. I either think that Law is a sword agent, and I can tell you about that. In a second.
Yeah.
So I either think that Law is a sword agent, or I think that Law is gonna be the one to reverse the surgery that was done to Kaido.
Right.
So Dofi wanted the Op fruit for a reason.
Right.
I believe that it was a ploy to that he had, or just a just a little piece to his plot and defeating Kaido.
Right.
But he knew that he needed that fruit to be able to do so because of the surgery that was done to Kaido. And I believe that with that fruit, you're able to reverse the surgery, maybe by giving your life.
Right. Expense of your own life. Exactly.
Okay. So if we see what I think, how people are saying that Act 3 ends in tragedy. If it turns out that they're damaging Kaido, they're messing Kaido up, and then they're like, well, why isn't he dying?
Right.
Why is he not dying? And then maybe you have some monologue with Law, and then Law, he's saying, I was afraid that this was the scenario, and this is worst case scenario, and then he briefs everyone, like let's say we get a flashback of him briefing everyone about this, and then him telling everyone, all right, you guys, this is worst case scenario. I'm gonna have to do this. Once I do this, you guys need to kill him. You guys need to defeat him.
Right.
And then he gives his life up, and then boom, that's how Act 3 ends.
See, now that to me, that would be an incredible way to end Act 3.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
I think it is going to end in tragedy, right? Act 3 is going to end in tragedy, but I feel like the default for that is going to be the loss of the samurai, to me. I think that's the impact that the tragedy is going to have. But man, oh man, oh man, if it is something like that, if it is like Act 3 ends, they're up against Kaido, they're feeling good, they've taken down Orochi, they've taken on the Calamities, they're like, we're here, this is finally it, everybody's teaming up, everybody's taking him down, and still with everybody teaming up and trying to attack him, they still can't beat him. And then, like you said, Law has the soliloquy, he mentions, I know this is what this is what I feared most of all, I got to do this, but you have to take him down. Room, reverses the effect. stops Kaido's immortality, but in actuality kills Law. And that's the last thing we see of Act 3 is the death of Law. Like, oh my God. That right there. I mean, One Piece is already goated to a lot of people, right? We all obviously love One Piece, but I think that to me would reinstill my faith on a lot of things that I have felt were wrong with the post-time skip era versus pre-time skip. That sets up and sets the kind of stakes that we need moving forward to the rest of the story. So again, I don't want Law to die, but if that's the way he's got to go down, I mean, it'd be incredible. That would be absolutely incredible.
It would be, man. But like you said, I don't know if Law will die because, I mean, he's such a popular character.
Right, exactly.
And there's no, I think we need to get more info as to what it is that goes into Kaido being immortal,
right.
Quote unquote.
I still feel like I think we've talked about this on even one of the reveries too. I feel very strongly we're going to get a second long flashback during this, and I think we're getting a Kaido flashback.
Oh, most definitely.
And I think it's probably at the end of Act 3. I think when Act 3 ends, we get that whatever massive death, and then beginning of Act 4 goes into
Kaido's flashback.
Kaido flashback, exactly. Yeah.
I would have no problem with that.
Yeah, me neither. But I feel like that's a high likelihood that a lot of people aren't taking into consideration in terms of the length of this story arc is finding out really what Kaido's motivations are and like why he's been doing this in Onigashima and like what his desire is, like what he actually wants.
Well, we know that he wants to talk with one of the scabbards. So my question to you is:
right.
Do you think that these Yonko, maybe aside from Blackbeard, do you think that they're aware of the significance that the road poneglyphs have?
Of course. But I think the whole thing is that they've been holding on to the status quo, right, for so long, right? They've been separated and they all realize, well, we're powerful enough as the Yonko, right? Like no one's messing with us. We already have all this territory. We've amassed all this. To us, finding the One Piece isn't as important anymore, right? It's like a long-term goal, but it's something that in the short term, like they have no desire for. And I think when you set something as a long-term goal and after years and years of becoming complacent and being happy with your role in the world, that long-term goal eventually sort of, falls by the wayside. We've had Big Mom saying, I'm going to be the Pirate King one day. And they've all exclaimed these things, but in actuality, like they've been alive for so long and they've done shit, so what are they going to do? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so I think, Luffy literally changing the game and Law breaking the gear and Punk Hazard and saying they're going to cause the storm and all this stuff. That is the setup, right? It's that Luffy is shaking up the status quo. It's that you've all been complacent for so long. The gear's now been broken and there's no going back. So either you fulfill what you've always wanted to do, you go and be the Pirate King, you stick to your beliefs and stick to all this stuff, or we're taking you down. And this is the time that you're going down and there's no other way about it,
Right. So to answer my own question, Roger, as far as like what I need to see or what I want to see, I'm real big on, I'm real big on lore. I'm real big on like, the poneglyphs more so than anything.
Right.
I want to know, or I want Kaido to either talk to Robin or talk with the scabbards and ask them, or maybe just give some type of hint as to him getting the One Piece or him finding out the true history of the world. Something along those lines, because I feel like Nekomamushi and Inarashi, they all said, or they laid down the plot line of Robin possibly being kidnapped whenever people want to find out what is on these poneglyphs. So at what point is that going to come up? And I feel like with the Yonko, it would be perfect if Kaido were to say something as to well, we've been so stagnant. We've been so like we haven't done anything.
I've been complacent, like I said.
Yeah, we've been complacent because we don't have someone that can read the poneglyphs. But now that you're here, now that Straw Hat Brat's comrade is here who can actually read them, then maybe after I kill you all, I'll enslave her and have her read the poneglyphs for me. So that I can finally get to One Piece.
We were talking about all those parallels between previous story arcs, pre-time skip and post-time skip, and obviously people talk about like Dressrosa versus Alabasta, right?
Right.
The kingdom that's in peril. People talked about Zo versus Skypiea, in which they're like these ancient kingdoms that have great ties with the lore, and then moving into Water 7 Eddie's lobby. It's like, could you imagine if what you just said is true and that this actually becomes a Robin rescue arc by the end of it?
Oh,
it's like,
man.
It's again, because that's what he wants, right? Is that he needs Robin to read the poneglyphs.
Dude, what if one of the Blackbeard pirates, so you know how you said Blackbeard, right?
Yeah.
What if, just the Blackbeard pirates, what they do is they take Robin.
Oh my God, man.
Like if you have Shiryu, or if you have one of these guys that can cover their presence, what if they're one of the ones that actually take Robin?
Man, oh man, oh man, oh man.
And that sets up, for the end game. That sets up, okay, then Blackbeard's gonna be on the move. And let's just say, Blackbeard already has the rubbings of, so many different poneglyphs, and then he's making Robin read those for him.
Jeez.
Yo. I feel like that Robin plotline, it needs to come up. It either needs to come up.
I mean, you're right. I'm trying to think of a defense. I can't, man. I think,
it needs to come up through Blackbeard, or maybe one of the other supernova. Because what is the Throne Wars in your eyes? Like, do you think the Throne Wars is actually going to be a war? Because what I think the Throne Wars is the Throne Wars is the theme of the New World.
Right.
That's what I personally believe. So I believe the entire New World, the Throne Wars is never going to stop until someone finds the One Piece.
Right.
So right now, with the first step in achieving the Throne Wars, and once again, the Throne Wars is everyone's a part of it. The Marines are a part of it. We have the the exposition of the Marines moving, or Akainu trying to expand the jurisdiction of the Marines by moving Marine forward to the New World.
Right.
And then, so what if this is what I think? Okay, so they're gonna eliminate the two main forces in the Throne Wars, or one of the two main forces, being, Big Mom and Kaido. And then from there, the Marines, the Supernova, they're going to start fighting amongst each other. So maybe you have some of the Supernova actually fighting. Maybe you have some Supernova fighting Marines. Maybe you have even the Supernova, like Kid Luffy. Maybe that's when we get their fight. And they're going to be fighting to take over Kaido's territory and to take over Big Mom's territory to further their jurisdiction. And I think that that's probably what the Marines are doing right now. The Marines might be doing some, people are saying that Blackbeard is going to go to Whole Cake Island to take over Big Mom's territory. What if the Marines are doing that right now?
Yeah, I mean, it could be. It's either or with Whole Cake, right? Whole Cake's sort of up in the air right now, where we know there's so many of the Big Mom pirates are with her right now in Wano that it makes me question, especially the ones that were like left behind, because we haven't seen Brulee, we haven't seen Katakuri, we haven't seen Pudding, right?
Oven,
right? Well, no, Oven's in Wano, isn't he?
Daifuku.
Oh no, Oven's not Wano. Okay.
Yeah, Daifuku and Smoothie
Parasparrow,
are in
Smoothie.
Yeah, but
Flampe,
the ones that we haven't seen, Katakuri, the most notable ones, Katakuri, Pudding, Cracker,
Oven and Brulee
Oven.
and Cracker. Yeah. So, I really wonder what is going on with Whole Cake, and if that is going to be something we get in one of those intermissions as well, because I think now is the opportunity. If someone was going to take that territory, now is the time to do it, right? And we also, like, the other big thing that no one ever talks about that I feel like is so important. What the hell is going to happen to Whole Cake when Big Mom eventually dies? Like, what happens?
Right.
How do the homies work? Like, what do souls go back to the bodies? But the bodies of people, like, she's taking souls from people who've been dead for hundreds of years sometimes. No, not hundreds of years, but like for years.
For
right?
years. For multiple years.
Out of life, right. And so do those go back into the bodies of the people that are dead? And like,
that's what I would assume, Roger.
Like what?
That's what I would assume. It would be on a Moria level scale, but in on a grand scheme. Like, you know, you remember how whenever Luffy defeated Moria, everyone got their shadows back. Well,
Right.
I think it's gonna be something that happens where after Big Mom's defeated, then we're gonna see, you know, a lot of people getting their lifespans back. A lot of
Mm,
people saying, you know, maybe commenting on them feeling a lot more lively, them being able to you know, that maybe if someone's like on their deathbed or something, then
right.
like you know, they just spring back up. They're like, yo, I got the springtime of youth, you know, like
Right.
just something along those lines. I think it's going to be a Moria effect. Like we're going to
Yeah.
see that throughout the entire world, and then someone's going to say, you know, they're going to fight, they're going to try to figure out who defeated Big Mom, kind of the same way that you remember people were waiting to find out who defeated Moria, but it
Right.
was just
Right.
never reported, you know, so no one could ever give Luffy his flowers in doing so. Well, the thing is that this time it's actually going to be reported.
Of course,
Okay,
everybody's aware of it. Yeah.
right. And then that's going to be another reason why Luffy's bounty just shoots up
Right.
exponentially,
Yeah.
because he's going to be credited for doing that, for giving these people their lifespan back, so on and so forth.
Yeah. It's a weird situation to be in, right? Because if that happens during Wano, like say Big Mom actually goes down during Wano too, in addition to Kaido, that sets up like a whole different can of
Or
worms of people who then have their life back, who then either want revenge or want to say thank you, or like new allies of Luffy.
you know what,
And
Roger? You know what though? But what if the Marines take credit for taking Big Mom down? And
hmm,
then people, you know, like then the Marines just gain even more faith within the One Piece world.
yeah, like more notoriety.
Right.
Well, that'd be strange though if they like cover up the thing and the Marines say, oh, we beat Big Mom, but oh yeah, Luffy beat Kaido. You know, it'd be the kind of thing. It'd be like a one for all kind of situation where you either report that they took them both down, or you report that they took one of them down. Like I don't know, reporting that they took one of them down would be strange if both of them fall. You know what I mean?
Well, see, I could see something where maybe Big Mom doesn't die, but the Marines capture Big Mom. So Kaido
Mm,
dies, and
mm,
then you know, maybe so that we're not just going overboard with the death, because I know that Oda may very well not kill both Yonko, but
right.
just to eliminate them from the story and to wrap up their character arcs, you like let's just say that the Marines capture Big Mom, and then like they may hold like a public execution for her or something like that.
Yeah. Well,
Or
actually, now that you're mentioning that, I'm thinking about Marineford again, and I'm thinking about, we were mentioning popularity with Law and that maybe being a thing against him. But if you think about it, I know this is like stepping away a little from Big Mom, but it also kind of ties in a little bit. Is if you think back to Marineford and you think even to today and the characters that are still supremely popular, I mean, Ace is still to this day such a popular
one of the most
character.
popular characters.
Yeah, so I feel like Law dying here wouldn't necessarily do anything to his popularity. People would still love Law and probably love him even more. There'd be people who maybe never necessarily liked Law as much that now like absolutely love him if he sacrificed himself. And then let's say, Kaido goes down as well, right? You have a fan favorite character and a Yonko go down, which is exactly the same as Marineford. You've got a fan favorite character in Ace who dies, and you've got one of the Yonko down, which shakes up the rest of the world. And that's what could potentially happen in the Wano, right? You've got Law going down Act 3, like you said, maybe, and then Kaido going down Act 4, and that sets in place everything that's going to happen in the future.
In the
Like you said,
epilogue.
maybe Big Mom being captured by the Marines because now she's weaker, and what happens, the Whole Cake's territory, maybe Blackbeard takes that, sent people to go take that or something. Katakuri's already been taken down by Luffy, but like Katakuri probably would still have some fight in him to defend his own territory. What would then happen to the idea of the Yonko, right? The idea of having Emperors of the Sea. Does that exist anymore with two of them gone, right? Is it just like Shanks, Luffy, and Blackbeard? And then who's the fourth one if that's the case? If that's still the power structure, does that power structure exist still moving into the Throne War, right? Like, is that something that after the One Piece has been discovered and Luffy becomes Pirate King, that there even are Yonko anymore? That there are Yonko like, Kid and Katakuri or something? Like what? There's so many directions in which the story could go.
I think
and
what, my bad to
no,
cut you off.
no. Go ahead.
I think what Luffy's legend is going to be, and it kind of goes back with Don Chinjiao, what Don Chinjiao said. So Luffy's legend and why and how he's going to surpass the Power King or the Pirate King,
Right.
is so back in Roger's era, they didn't have these systems set in place. There were no Shichibukai. They're not to what we know anyway,
Right.
because that was the beginning of the pirates. You know, you didn't need these systems to keep the pirates in check because there wasn't an influx of pirates. So there was no the three great admirals, there was none of the Yonko, and there was no Shichibukai. Well, right now you could kind of say that Luffy is the main reason why the Shichibukai system is gone or is abolished,
Sure.
because he's responsible for 5 positions being gone. So you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
Crocodile, Moria, Law, Dofi, Jinbei.
Yeah. And now Jinbei's on his crew. So.
Right, and now Jinbei's on his crew. Then if you have Luffy be at the epicenter of 2 Yonko going down, and then what I think will be the last thing that Luffy does, where another bounty raise will come to Luffy, is Luffy defeating an admiral. And it'd be the first time that it's reported that a pirate defeats an admiral. Because we've never even heard of it could be the case that Whitebeard and Roger may have defeated an admiral, but I don't know if the Marines would let that information, or the world government would let that information seek out to the public. But with Morgan's around and how much Morgan's is fond of Luffy.
Yeah, he's a giant fanboy. I mean,
exactly. He's gonna be like, "Yo, this is big news. Y'all need to hear about this. Luffy just defeated an admiral."
Right.
And then,
it depends on, like, do you think the admirals are going to show up in Wano country then?
Well, no. I don't think that Luffy's going to defeat one now. So I think that Luffy's obviously going to get a bounty raise after Wano. And then I assume that he'll get one more bounty raise after, or he'll get another bounty raise after Wano, and then his last bounty raise will be once he finds the One Piece.
Agreed.
So I think Luffy gets 3 more bounty raises throughout the entirety of the series.
What do you think his final bounty is? Because I know a lot of people have talked about this.
I think it's probably going to be like 5.6. He's slightly going to edge Goldie Roger.
Gomu, yeah.
Like it's gonna slightly be over Rogers. So, and then I mean the top 3 candidates that I think to defeat an admiral are gonna be Blackbeard, Sabo, and Luffy. Those are my top 3.
So moving into the final war, right? And again, we're moving a little bit away from Wano country, but I think it's fine because we're on topic of it. There's so many people, and I'm in agreement with you. I think, like Sabo, Blackbeard, Luffy, those are the kind of ones who would take down the admirals. There's so many people who want to see Zoro and Sanji fight admirals, right? And I'm wondering if that is actually going to happen at the end of the series. If we are going to get like Zoro versus Fujitora or Sanji versus Green Bull or something. And I'm really not sure anymore. I think like with the really big, powerful people that have been introduced since, and the trajectory of the rest of the story, I don't even know if those are things that are going to happen. I think Zoro's final opponent is basically Mihawk, right? I mean,
I think it's either going to be Mihawk or Gandhi.
The Gorosei guy.
The Gorosei guy. Because he has the Shodai Katetsu, which is also a one of the 12 supreme grade blades.
Right.
I think that Zoro should most definitely fight him, just based on the the implications of the final war and the Gorosei being being the guard of Imu.
Right.
So I mean, honestly, man, I don't need to see Luffy, Zoro, Sanji fight in the Trinity of Admirals.
Right.
Because I think that it's very well possible that Luffy could defeat Kizaru before the final war. Especially because it would be a very picture this, right?
Kizaru instead of Fujitora or Green Bull. I'm curious as to why specifically Kizaru.
I think Kizaru because of the history that they have, and Kizaru was the one that stopped them initially. So I think it would be a nice turn of just a nice full circle if Luffy is actually able to defeat Kizaru and to help his crew.
Sick. Yeah, I would love that. I mean, that's a fight I would genuinely really love to see. I don't know what the heck they would do with that, and man,
I don't
just
need
imagining
to see
Snake Man Luffy flying around fighting Kizaru fast as oh man.
I don't need to see Sanji, like, everyone wants to see Sanji and Kizaru fight because of the kicks and because of the light stuff. I don't necessarily need that. What I would like is, what does it make sense to the narrative of the story? And if Luffy were to fight Kizaru and that be the because look, so Green Bull obviously has something bigger left. Akainu has something bigger left, and Fujitora has something, bigger left. Kizaru is just kind of like that admiral that's just there to be there.
Yeah.
In my personal opinion. So if you have an admiral be defeated in the series, obviously my two candidates for those are Aokiji and Kizaru. I know Aokiji isn't an admiral, but he's an admiral character. He was a former admiral. And he's a part of the Blackbeard pirates.
Aokiji, Kuzan, that whole thing, right? Like, that's a whole other can of worms, too, of, like, things that could potentially happen in Wano country and characters that could show up. At this point, I think most people are in agreement, right? Like, end of series, Kuzan's an ally. I mean, that's how it is right now. Like, I don't see any, especially like, even with all the side material, like with the Pirate Warriors games and with the novels and the movies and everything, and the way that Oda has chosen to portray Kuzan and all the non-canon stuff. It's like he is always one of those go-to characters that helps save the day at the end of everything, along with all the other characters. And so, to me, I don't see a scenario in which the series ends and Kuzan is not seen as like a quote-unquote good guy. You know what I mean?
Well, Roger, I think that Aokiji is, or Kuzan is still a part of the Marines. I think that
for sure.
I think that he is the main driving force of Sword.
Of Sword, I agree completely.
So what I think, and I know a lot of some people may disagree with this, or they're like, "Wait, what?" So if you think about it, what I think happened, we know that supposedly Akainu spared Aokiji's life.
Right.
What I think is kind of the same. It's following the same thing as I said about Dragon and Kuma. Aokiji is too strong to just let walk away without getting something in return.
Right.
So I think that maybe Akainu proposed, hey, listen, you obviously don't want to follow my lead. You don't want to be under me. So let me just do let me give you this. You operate under the umbrella of the Marines, but you do it under your accord. Yes,
of
you
course.
do it via sword.
Yes.
And the reason why I say that also is because Sword seems to be a counteract, or seems to be there to counteract the world government doing whatever they want to do.
Right.
Without
and
having...
Yes, because you're like hammering the nail on the head. Absolutely. Because I feel like Sword is being set up right now, just with the people that we know are in it already, definitively, with Drake and with Kobe. I feel like it is being set up to be what the Marines will be following the discovery of One Piece. Like, I think Sword is going to be, because the world can't just be free reign, right? There's got to be some type of police force related thing for the world at the end of all of this. The Marines aren't going to go away by the end of One Piece. The Marines as we know it probably will, right? But there needs to be some type of establishment just for the people. Like, you got to remember, at the end of the day, people still see pirates as bad guys. And that's because, and that will always be the case because there are tons of terrible pirates out there. Now, people might look fondly upon the title of Pirate King in the same way a lot of people do for Roger, but I still think there needs to be some type of establishment. And I think little by little, as we find out more of the members of Sword and the people that work with Sword, those are eventually going to be the keys to setting in place the Marines as we know them following the discovery of Laugh Tale and also following the results of the final war, right?
I think
where Kobe, Drake, Smoker, Tashigi, Kuzan, those are the people setting in place the new government.
The people under Garp. The people that follow the Garp kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly.
And I don't know if Garp is necessarily a part of Sword.
Well, Garp's going to die by the end of the series. I have no doubt about that. Garp's dying.
I think that Garp is most definitely going to die.
Yeah.
I just don't know how it may happen. I mean, what I personally think, I think that Garp is going to get a kind of like a redeeming kind of thing to where we find out why Garp hates the Celestial Dragons, and I think that that's going to be tied to Dragon.
Of course.
And maybe Dragon's hate of the celestial dragons, and
Of
maybe
course.
even tied to Luffy's mother as well.
Of course. Of course. Yeah, that Luffy's mom is potentially a celestial dragon.
Yeah, I
right?
think
And that's why he's tied to it, is that he has some stake in it because of the mother. And that's maybe a big reason why Dragon hates the celestial dragons, is that she dies basically, or something happens to her because of the hatred that the celestial dragons have in their heart. Yeah.
Right, but like I think that maybe it was something along the lines of, Dragon was a former CP0 agent, so obviously he protects the celestial dragons.
I mean, that'd be cool. I would like
not
that.
like, even though you're in Mary Joy, you're not a celestial dragon, so it's kind of like a star-crossed lovers kind of thing, and they figure out. Maybe she shared some of the secrets of the world with Dragon, and maybe maybe someone found out, maybe a high power celestial dragon found out that Dragon and her conceived the baby, and it was ordered that she has to die.
Yeah.
And Dragon's like, oh nah, that's not going down.
Right.
And maybe that's why Garp was watching over Luffy in the first place.
Man.
Is because maybe it was ordered that she dies, and maybe she actually did die, but Dragon had to either choose, okay, we're either gonna save you or we're gonna save Luffy, and she obviously chose you're gonna save Luffy.
Luffy, naturally, yeah.
And then that all of that is why Garp, Dragon, they hate the celestial dragons.
Right.
Dude.
Yeah, I mean, I'm ready for it. I want to see all that stuff. See, and that's the thing, is that those are endgame type reveals to me, right? And the fact that we've been talking about doing this in the next couple arcs is like insane. We're actually here, which is why, like, I think back to when obviously Oda's been saying this for years, like, oh, it's going to end in 5 years, 10 years, 75% done, whatever. Like, if not for the coronavirus situation, if not for this pandemic going on right now, I feel like he probably would have hit his mark. Like, we probably would be done in 5 years. Just with the pace the story's moving at and all the things that are being revealed. But now I really don't think that's a possibility anymore. I think he really does need like that full 5 years to flesh out the story following the end of Wano. But we're going to see, man. I mean, like, with everything that we've been discussing and the fallout of Wano and the characters that we need to find out their history and who's going to die in Wano and everything, I don't know, man. It's going to be exciting the next couple of years. Yeah.
Most definitely. Roger, you got any closing thoughts, man? I think we covered a good slew of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was definitely enjoyable. I mean, I'm sad Drizzt couldn't.
Yeah, I know he couldn't come back. He got stuck with his work stuff. Yeah.
Right, but you got any closing thoughts, man? Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah. I will say in general, I like Wano a lot. Like, I know there's been some weird back and forth. There's a lot of people who really have not been enjoying Wano or don't like the pacing and have a lot of issues with it. But for me, Wano is sort of like reinstilled my faith in One Piece in a way where I was really getting beaten down by like the end of Whole Cake Island. And even like some of the late chapters of Dressrosa, right? Like, I'm always going to love One Piece, but I could tell, like, I could see through, what's the best way to say that? I could see behind the curtain, I think is the best way to say it. I could see some of the things that Oda was doing, and I wasn't really necessarily agreeing with it. And I feel like now moving into Wano country, especially with that Oden flashback, like, I know there were a lot of people who also did not enjoy the pacing and wish we had seen more of the samurai and stuff. But like, to me, I feel like that string of chapters was so good. Like, I don't think we've ever discussed this just one-on-one outside of like a few Reverie calls or something. But overall, like, what were your thoughts of the Oden flashback? Because to me, I feel like it's got it. First off, unequivocally, objectively, it is one of the most important flashbacks in all of One Piece now.
Oh,
like,
I think it's
regardless
definitely
of whether people enjoyed it.
Now, okay, so are you caught up to Bleach? Did you ever catch up?
No, but you could. I mean, just talk about it. It's fine.
Okay.
I mean, I know most of the general beats of the story. So.
All right. So, as far as the big three and like their flashbacks and the revelational flashbacks, right?
Right.
So in Naruto you had the Obito flashback.
Right.
And Bleach you had the Turn Back the Pendulum arc. And One Piece you have the Oden flashback. So This was that flashback where I thought we were going to get all these answers. I thought that we were going to have Void Century stuff tied into this flashback as well. Um, Now, I did not like a lot of the pacing for the Odin flashback.
Sure.
But still, even with that being said, this is still one of the most important flashbacks of the series.
Yeah.
I have Fisher Tiger and Nolan's flashback probably being the best flashbacks of the series.
Mm.
The Fisher Tiger Otahime stuff, I really loved that, and I loved how it connected a lot of different plot points.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like that's one thing looking back at Fishman Island where like I had so many issues with that story arc and I did not like it on the whole, but man, that Fisher Tiger flashback really was great.
Yeah, I loved it. And then just the revelations that we got about how Arlong modeled Arlong Park after Sabaody because he just wanted to be accepted. That was amazing to me. I loved that.
Yeah.
So just like I was expecting a lot of answers, right? And granted, we can still get answers from this flashback at the end of Wano because that's kind of how Oda does it. He ties in stuff like at the end with these big info dumps. The Odin death was one of the best deaths in the series, bar none.
Agreed. Yeah.
I would say Whitebeard, Odin, and
Corazon for sure.
Yeah,
it's got to be. Yeah,
and Corazon, and then obviously Ace. Those are probably the top deaths in One Piece, and then maybe you can throw Bellemere in there as well. Bellemere was a pretty good death.
Not the 4Kids version where she gets thrown to the dungeon, but yeah, where she actually gets shot.
Where she actually gets shot.
Yeah.
So yeah, man. I mean, like, there were certain things that I didn't like about the Odin flashback. Like there was a plot hole as far as not Shirahoshi, but as far as Madame Shirley goes. Whenever she said that she's not able to know the exact day or when something happens. And then, we have Roger. Roger asks her, when is the mermaid princess going to be born? And then she says 10. I didn't
see, but that's not really a plot hole, though, because that's a generalization as opposed to pinpointing the exact day. She's not saying, oh, it's exactly 10 years from today. She's saying in about 10 years.
Okay, that's fair.
They'll be born. Yeah, so I actually did not see that as a plot hole. I saw that as like, okay, she's generalizing her prediction, but it's not like she's not counting down to the hour like, oh, the Pirate King is going to be born, or the next Joy Boy or Poseidon or whatever will be born, on this day at this time 10 years from now. It was like more of a general.
It was a generalization. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I'm trying to think what else. My biggest thing during the Odin flashback was Oda, please show me and not tell me.
Yes.
That was just my thing about it. The pacing, we didn't see Odin use Conqueror's Haki at all, but we know that Shutenmaru, commented on Odin having that power. And
wait. We did see Odin using Conqueror's Haki. When he fights Whitebeard on the beach. When they have that clash and you see the lightning, you definitely see the Haki.
I mean him use it to do what Conqueror's Haki does. That's what I mean. We saw
we see it.
We saw the clash. We saw the clash of it. We saw the clash. But I mean, like him actually using the power in the way that Shutenmaru saw, what I felt was the perfect opportunity for Odin to use that. To use Conqueror's Haki. Yes, the fight against Kaido.
I completely agree with.
If he would have done, and maybe, they'll have him do that in the anime. So there's still some saving grace. But man, and then, I mean, like, I don't know. It's not my favorite flashback because it's just some things I didn't like. But the Roger stuff, the Whitebeard stuff, Odin as a whole, I liked Odin. And then my biggest problem was Toki. So we have her be introduced, and she's said to be born 800 years ago, and so on and so forth. Obviously, Wano has ties to the Void Century. We know that the people of Wano, the Kozuki clan, were the stonemasons who made the poneglyphs. So obviously there's some type of connection to the Void Century. I just thought that we would get that during the flashback, but maybe we'll get it after, and maybe the epilogue.
I'm curious. Do you think Toki's dead?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, because I still don't buy it completely. Like, I know I saw the arrow in the leg. I saw her running through the forest. I see the declaration of the prophecy. You see the people going, "Oh my God, Toki!" But with a devil fruit power like time, that's just to be able to send people into the future. Either we are going to need to see what happened to that devil fruit by the end of Wano Country, or we're going to find out she's alive or something. But I feel like that's not something that just dies with her. Well, I mean, we are going to need to see what happened to that devil fruit by the end of Wano.
Yeah, most definitely. We need to find that out. But I hope that it's something where that devil fruit stays within the Kozuki, the Kozuki lineage, or it's a devil fruit that is, only to the indigenous people of the Void Century.
I would like that. That'd be cool.
I hope that it, that it stays like that. But yeah, man, it's the Oden flashback. It can still be better because Luffy banging on the bell in Skypiea made the Skypiea, or made the Nolan flashback that much better to me. So maybe there's something at the end of Wano that happens that will make that Oden flashback that much better.
Don't you think that's going to be the fight with Orochi?
Yeah,
I feel like that's what that is, right? With the stuff with the Kurozumi clan, and getting to see these devil fruits that we've become familiar with the series, like Bartolomeo's devil fruit and Bon Clay's devil fruit, and that they used to be Kurozumi devil fruits. Like, that's a weird thing that, like, I wonder if we're going to get more information about that.
Yeah,
maybe not.
It's either going to come to a head with the whether it be the Orochi fight or the Kaido fight. It doesn't matter. Yeah. I would love it either way. I would even love it even more if it was a Kaido thing, because what if we find out that Kaido is actually indigenous to Wano?
Yeah. Well, I've been saying that. Like, I don't know if there's something going on with Onigashima where, with the dragon idea, with the dragon devil fruit, if he is a dragon, that an Oni fruit or whatever, like, I still think it is so weird. And I think there's a reason for it that we have not seen Kaido's devil fruit in an Oda box yet. When we're getting all these devil fruits for all these characters, and we specifically have not gotten Kaido's, like, that's going to have to happen during his fight. We're going to see an Oda box. We're going to get the actual classification of his devil fruit, and I think that's going to give us a lot of answers to stuff. So I know, right? We'll see.
I agree, man. I definitely agree with that.
I have actually 3 other small questions for you before we wrap up. These are just like brief lightning round questions, and I thought at some point these would come up while we were discussing what's going to happen during the Wano War, but they're just like pretty simple to answer. 1, when do you think Orochi dies? Or do you think Orochi dies at all? Do you think he has to suffer in a cell or something? And who's the one to take him down? That's the first one.
It most definitely has to be one of the scabbards. It's either one of the scabbards or Momonosuke who take Orochi down.
Or Hiyori, like you mentioned earlier.
Yeah, or Hiyori. So someone that has the ties to Wano who Orochi has, made suffer. And then when it'll happen, I say towards the end of the war. Like Orochi's gonna die right before Kaido dies.
Oh, so you don't think it's gonna be like a small victory in Act 3? You think it's gonna be something? Because the way I've been talking about this on my live streams is, you've seen obviously the Avengers movies, right?
Yeah.
So how Infinity War, they beat all of the headliners or calamities or whatever of Thanos, right? You beat the Black Order or whatever they're called. They beat all of them, and then Thanos comes, he has the Infinity Gauntlet, he snaps, and then half of everybody dies, right? And then the way I look at it with this is that Orochi would almost be like one of those, right? It's like the calamities and Orochi, is that they get taken care of in Act 3 only for Kaido to have this epic moment and maybe sacrifice himself or whatever to lead into Act 4, into the actual real final conflict of Wano. So I don't know. I've been wondering if maybe Orochi goes down in Act 3 to give us that small victory, to make us think that, this is all going to be wrapped up in Act 3 only for something big to happen to lead us into Act 4.
Uh, see, I just feel like I think it's gonna the mood is definitely gonna change a bit.
Mm.
And I feel like if they got a victory like that, it would kind of go against the mood that's being set right now.
Mm. Mm.
So and I personally think that Orochi is actually gonna kill Kanjuro.
Oh, okay. You don't think it's gonna be Momonosuke?
Nah, I think Orochi's gonna kill him.
Ah,
I think Orochi's
okay.
gonna kill him because there's nothing connecting them. They don't seem to have any type of relationship. It seems that Orochi is
Ah.
just using him as a just as a pawn. Like
See, I would actually really like that because I think at the end of the day, despite him being a traitor, he still went through everything with the other samurai. So it's almost like even because Kanjuro can't be redeemed at this point. I feel like he's just an
nah,
asshole.
he
Like
can't
nobody,
he can't
he's
be
done.
redeemed.
But I feel like his redemption could come through death, right? It's that by dying, it gives them the motivation they need to take down Orochi or something like
Yeah,
that.
because it would just show how
Yeah,
despicable Orochi is. Like,
yeah. I like that a lot. I like that a lot.
if like he killed Kanjuro because of Kanjuro's inability to like if he says something like you had them or you just had one job. You had one job and all you had to do was stop the scabbards from getting to Onigashima. Like and he he kills him. Um I would really like that.
Yeah.
Just but that's just me.
Man, we're talking about all this stuff, and it's crazy to think. Okay, well, like if Kanjuro dies, and Orochi dies, and Kaido dies, and Law dies, I mean, the end of Wano Country, that's going to throw a lot of devil fruits out there into the mix, right? That people could potentially take
That they could,
moving
yeah.
into the later part of the story, right? And I wonder if those are going to be Blackbeard devil fruits that he amasses, or if that's going to be something where maybe like other allies of the Straw Hats get them, or even other Straw Hats. Who knows? But yeah, that's interesting. Well, that's one thing I wanted to bring up. Second thing I want to bring up, I'm shocked we didn't talk about this at all, almost, and that's Yamato. Like, what the hell do you think is going on with that guy?
Well, Yamato, so I look at it in two ways. Either he's gonna be the ace, and what they say the ace is kind of like in Japanese culture, is like the ace is like number one.
Right.
So I'm looking at Kaido as like the blackjack. Like he's the dealer. So then you have the ace, then you have king, queen, jack, joker, and then the suits.
Right.
So that's how I'm looking at it, or I'm looking at it as he's kind of like a counterpart to Momonosuke.
So do you think he's going to be young, or do you think he's going to be like a formidable foe? Like, do you think he's going to be a Momonosuke type character? Like he's going to be a little Oni looking kid or something? Or do you think he's going to be like an actual threat? Because the way that Toby and Roppo are talking about him, like saying, oh, it's going to be a difficult challenge to get him, implies to me that he's not going to be like Momonosuke unless he's got some weird like chameleon devil fruit power or something, right? Where they can't find him. And so it's like actually going to be a task
to actually find him.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Because I see that as maybe one of the possibilities that he isn't necessarily like some big, strong character, but he's got a devil fruit that makes it difficult to actually track him down. Or is he going to be, right, like you said, the ace of the crew, some really, really powerful character that maybe that's why all this time Kaido's been trying to get these smile devil fruits, and because we still don't even really know like the crafting and the creation of Momonosuke's devil fruit. Like maybe the whole reason Kaido was doing that was to pass down, if he's immortal, to pass down his dragon fruit to his son, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that devil fruit was meant to be for Yamato, and that Momonosuke eating it threw everything off balance.
I mean, for my own personal reasoning, I would love it if he was strong. I would love it if he was strong. But I think it's gonna fall like I think it's gonna be more so like he's gonna be kind of like a Momonosuke type thing.
And then do you think moving on from the Yamato stuff, right? Like with how Luffy Katakuri wrapped up, right? And there's still all these discussions about, oh, will there be Yonko after everything is said and done? Like, do you think there is potential now that this is being set up that like he would be the next in line Yonko after everything is said and done. Right? Like it would be Katakuri basically carrying on the will of Big Mom or something, but in his own way, obviously, where he's at least respectful of Luffy, and then same kind of thing with Yamato, or maybe by the end of the conflict, he's respectful of the Straw Hats and what they're doing or whatever.
Nah, I think like with
So you go, because I agree with you. I think that whole idea that there's going to be Yonko moving forward over, I don't agree with that.
Yeah,
I think the Yonko are gone.
Yeah, I think that they're
after
gonna
this.
be. I think they're gonna be gone. Well, there's gonna be one more vacant position there's gonna be a vacant position of the Yonko, but I feel like because Blackbeard is inevitably gonna kill Shanks,
Mm.
or however you wanna slice that.
Yeah.
I think that the Yonko system is probably gonna be crushed.
I agree.
And it's just gonna be like a two-way head between Blackbeard and Luffy.
I like that. Cool. Well, the last thing I was going to bring up, very last thing, is, I'm not a huge power scaler. I rarely participate in power scaling discussions. I think they're fun to listen to, but like I'm not really somebody who likes to like look back at like, oh, this feat means that this person's actually stronger than this person. However, one thing I think is integral to this fight in Wano country is, we were just talking about Oden not really having a feat during his flashback with the Conqueror's Haki, right? That like it wasn't shown off in the way that you were expecting it or wanted it to happen.
Right.
I'm curious, do you think anybody is going to unlock Conqueror's Haki or Advanced Observation or Armament or whatever during Wano country? And if so, who?
Okay.
Like of characters that don't already have it or aren't showcasing it.
All right. So a common thing that I think that the crew or that people are going to run into with Kaido's crew is that they're Zoans. So what we know about Zoans is that they're increased physical attributes. So like if you reference the page 1 fight, Sanji is doing all of this damage to page 1. Or not all this damage. He's doing all of these attacks, but his attacks really don't hold any weight.
Right.
So I think that the Haki is definitely going to have to bloom in certain scenarios that will allow these characters to do more damage to these ancient Zoan, to these Zoan type characters. So with Zoro, right? Like assuming that or like King has an ancient Zoan, he's a swordsman, so his power with his sword is going to be out of this world.
Right.
And we know that Zoro wants to be a powerful swordsman. I believe that he's already unlocked, or he's already kind of on the bridge of unlocking that next level of Armament Haki. But his fight with King is going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back. That's going to give him the same power that Luffy just got, where he's able to damage you from the inside out. Sanji. I know a lot of people are going to kill me for this in the comment section, but Sanji has not used hardening yet. He's not used hardening. He's used ornament, but he hasn't used hardening.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I think that hardening is going to be something that Sanji is going to use for the first time in Wano, or that Oda's going to show us, and that's going to add that extra weight to his attacks.
Okay.
And then Luffy,
it'd be cool to see like full body Armament Haki from Sanji while he's in his raid suit would be kind of sick. I would like to see that.
Dude, I think a combination of hardening and Diablo Jumbo with the raid suit is, oh man, that's going to be insane.
That'll be cool,
And then also like Kid. I think Kid is also able to use this this second level of Armament Haki, or this advanced Armament Haki as well. And we'll see him do that. So I think that's going to be the theme of as far as power goes this arc. These characters are going to have to get better control of their Armament Haki to damage these insane Zoan users.
So one in particular thing I wanted to bring up, which is why I asked you this in the first place, and we talked about Law a little bit earlier. I think even if he dies in Wano, we see him utilize Conqueror's Haki at some point during the Wano Country thing, because if you look back at the characters that have conquerors already, right? You've got like, of course, the old heads. You've got like Gold Roger and Sengoku and Kaido and Big Mom and Rayleigh and like Chinzhou and stuff. Then you've got characters like Luffy and Doflamingo and Katakuri and Kid. And, you know, they're focusing so much on this auction trio being sort of the crux of this clash against Kaido that it'd be so strange for Luffy and Kid to have it and then Law not to have it. So I think at some point, I don't know what type of fight this is going to be shown off in, but I feel like we are going to see Law utilize Conqueror's Haki at some point.
See, I don't think that we'll see Law do it. I think that we'll see Zoro do it. And
so you think Zoro is going to do it and not Law?
Yeah, I think if
okay, because
like,
I think I could see both of them doing it, but I don't see it being where like Law can't do it and Zoro can.
Well, I don't want to turn it. Yeah, I don't want to turn it into like Zoro can do it and Law can't.
Of course.
But I just think like for the sake of like how how important Wano's going to be to Zoro's character.
Yeah.
I can see an instance where Zoro uses Conqueror's Haki for the first time in Wano. And if Zoro does not,
that would be hype, man. That would be hype.
If Zoro doesn't use Conqueror's Haki in this arc, then I think I think that ship is gonna have sailed. Like he's not gonna have, or it's safe to say that Zoro doesn't have Conqueror's Haki.
I agree.
Yes, sir.
Cool. All right. That's pretty much everything then.
All right, man. So you guys, this has been another edition of the Captain's Cabin. It really turned into a one-on-one with me and Roger, which was dope. It's always dope to talk to you, man.
Likewise. It's always a pleasure. We're so used to doing like giant group streams, right? That it's so funny to actually like bring it down to just two people talking.
Right.
And I also feel like I've said this since the very first Reverie. I feel like the two of us, more than anybody else that I know, are like the biggest revolutionary fanboys on the planet. And
man.
More often than not, like, because obviously I'll watch everybody's content here and there. It's difficult when you make One Piece content to like absorb everybody's like individual own videos and reactions and stuff. And so I don't. But whenever I watch like group streams, it's always so funny to be like, oh yeah, I totally agree with what Matt said here. So it's funny to just like to hear where we differ, because I feel like there's so many things that we do completely agree on in terms of the future of the story. So yeah, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, man. Happy I was able to do it.
Always, bro. Always. Thanks for joining, bro. And I'll let you know whenever this is uploaded. But that's gonna be it for us, you guys. And we are out. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
All right.